Hello everyone, welcome to another session of Film Appreciation with Raghavendra sir. Today we're going to be talking about classic Hollywood cinema. So, yeah, over to you sir, please take it ahead.
The thing is, what does the term classical mean actually? Students of physics would know what the word classical means. How is classical physics different from modern physics, for instance? The classical physics basically talks about something, a system, as independent without the observer having a place in it. Okay. So the question is that regardless of whether you're present observing something or not, that thing has an independent existence of its own. That would be a classical way of looking at it. Modernist thing would be to include the observer in the entire classification to in the system itself. So similarly, which means that what happens is, as a result of this, classical would mean that if you develop a certain set of rules, okay, whatever set a certain set of rules, follow the rules laid down, whatever effects you want will be achieved. This is basically it. Like your same thing with your Indian classical music, there are rules, you're supposed to follow this, there are very strict rules, right? If you follow this rule and do this, you will get the kind of effect you want, you will produce the kind of effect you want. This is basically it. Now, Hollywood cinema is the only cinema in the world, okay, where which is called classical because it's the only cinema in the world where this thing of rules and are laid down and they're followed. If you go to a library of books on film, you will find that a huge number of these books, are devoted to Hollywood. Almost 50%, 60% of the books. If you look for French cinema books, you won't find so many. If you look for Hollywood genre and music, that sort of thing, you'll find a huge number of books. In fact, I was just looking at something, the kind of articles they have, no, the kind of papers, the kind of books, openings in noir films. Can you imagine? Openings. How do noir films open? There's a whole research thing on how noir films open, right? That kind of attention to cinema no other cinema has got, and you could say that result of all this is that David Bordwell says that Hollywood is the basic, the basic prototype of what cinema should be. Everything else goes to go beyond on Hollywood. You will have to go through Bollywood, is what he says. Okay, now. Um, up to the 60s, or I think up to 60 or 60s or something, to sort classical cinema, the basic thing was to deliver the story without interruption, without confusion to the spectator, with minimal interference from the director for any kind of style. Was it was called what was called the invisible style. This is a fundamental thing of Hollywood filmmaking, the invisible style. Now, it may look like, it may look fairly that the fact of delivering the story without interruptions to deliver it clearly may look like commonplace. But if you just look at, say, subsequent films, look at, for example, something like Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
Okay, you look at Ocean's 11, you look at that film, a more recent film. Ocean's 11, do you know how that robbery was accomplished? I don't know. I've seen it several times. I can't figure out how that robbery was accomplished at all. Okay.
Yeah.
It's completely, they show some digits and they show something going along, and at the end of it you don't know how the robbery took place at all. Okay. The point is, this would not have been allowed earlier because it was very necessary for that, somehow with this technology coming in and people knowing that the filmmakers knowing that the public will not be aware of technologies, that they can pull off all kinds of rubbish, okay, and call it technology. Okay, this what has happened is a lot of, is kept, and I'm talking about, straightforward narration. Like, I'm not talking about Lynch, I'm not talking about Altman, I'm not talking about these people who are making ambiguous films. I'm talking about run of the mill thrillers, run of the mill romances, all this sort of thing. There was it was essential that the story should be delivered absolutely clearly. Okay, that has changed from the 70s onwards, but we will go into that a little later. Okay,
Yeah.
so now it's not nowadays. In fact, there's a whole lot of cheating going on in cinema. Okay, when you say cheating, even major filmmakers cheat. I'll give you an example later on. um, the basic thing, you don't follow the rules in such a way, you spring surprises without giving a hint and that sort of thing, right? That thing was never done earlier. So you could say that up to 1960, probably the 60s, mid 60s also would be the time when you had classical cinema following a strict code in such a way that the story would be delivered without interruption to the spectator. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, um, the rules of classical narration revolve around several systems. Okay. The first system is the space of the action. Okay, the space of the action is continuous, must be clearly defined. That is, the space must be continuous, right? This is not like, I mean, in Bollywood, for instance, would not follow this, in the sense that there is no continuous space, that each space is separate and they're not linked in any way.
Yeah.
They would be defined by their qualities. For example, in Bollywood film space, you would have a hospital, okay, they're represented by a doctor in a white coat and drips or something, a patient, a police station in a certain way, rich man's house in I think I did that in an earlier
Yeah.
class.
Yeah.
In Hollywood is continuous. It's Aristotelian. So yeah, I mean, obviously it can't be continuous in that sense, but the whole point is that you get a sense of the total space available. Okay, total space available, how the things are linked to each other is very necessary. Okay.
Yes.
The secondly, time must be represented in such a way that makes chronology and duration um, clear to the spectator. What is chronology?
Like the order of events that happen in the
The
film.
order of the events. Exactly. What is the order of events? What is the event which comes first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth? Okay. That must be. And what is duration? It is the time
Yeah.
lapsing between one event and the next, the whole length of the film, right? Duration is very important. And I think one of the reasons that it makes it clear. Um, what is the duration in Lagan? Lagan is one of the I think also a few successful films in Hollywood. I mean, Bollywood film which has done well in the Oscars and all that. Lagan, if you remember right, there was a duration of 3 months,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which was the time in which the
They had to
prepare for
the
the match,
match.
right?
Yeah.
For the game with the English, right? So the question is, this duration has to be made clear to the spectator. Chronology has to be clear to the spectator. Then the narrative must be driven by psychological causation. It must be character centered, and the drive is towards overcoming obstacles and achieving goals. So the entire American thing is towards achieving goals, overcoming obstacles. Choices are rational. Okay, this is a fundamental requirement. And the psychological causation is that I'll go into this later earlier in things. So this is very important. Okay, then unity of action has to be maintained. What is unity of action has to be maintained? That is, incidents should cluster around a single animating idea, which is called the theme. To give you an idea of what the theme is, what is the theme in the Godfather 1? Let's take one. What do you think is the animating idea in Godfather 1?
Crime.
Animating idea? No, it's something more specific. What
Oh,
happens in the course of the narration?
family.
What happens?
Like
No, I think the basic thing, the theme in Godfather 1 is the moral decline of Michael Corleone, right?
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That is a theme, right? Godfather 2, it would not be that. Godfather 2, the theme is a little different.
Yeah. It'll be. Yeah.
Godfather 2, the theme has to do with the movement when the Americanization of an Italian family, what the moral thing is. For example, the contrast between the fact that Godfather Vito Corleone has no problems, moral problems. He does whatever he has to do. Michael Corleone has moral problems of some sort. He can't control himself. So that would be different. So the point is that this entire theme, and usually there will be some key line in the film which points to that kind of this kind of the theme of the film. Okay.
So
So
say
now
a
can we
film
go?
like Citizen Kane. So what is
It
the
is,
yeah,
yeah.
what is the obstacle in the like in that
Okay, you
like
tell me now. What do you think is the obstacle? Okay, let's look at Citizen Kane. It's interesting, right?
yeah.
It's a very interesting thing. The point is not necessarily achievement of goals, but also failures.
Okay.
Okay, it could also fail. In Citizen Kane is actually it's a kind of depiction of a man's failure, his interrupted childhood. In fact, that entire thing of Rosebud, okay,
Yeah.
points to his lost childhood, right? So the point is that early, before he can grow up to adolescence, even his mother sends him away as that to bring him up in such a way that his family has no control over him because she doesn't trust his father, right? So the question is taken away and he comes into a lot of wealth, and the point he has everything in the world, but what he has lost is his childhood, right? That is the basic theme. The whole film revolves around that.
Yeah.
So the struggle is actually, his struggle is with money and power. That's his struggle. His struggle is not to achieve power, but his struggle is his moral struggle against power. Okay, he has to goes on and on and on. Finally, he's left. He loses to the fact of power, loses to money. That is the basic thing. So the struggle is not necessarily achievement of a goal. It can also be a failure. Okay.
But at the time when it was made, like it was the peak of like Hollywood, old, like as now we call it classical Hollywood. So, and the unification of time that you, as you mentioned, it was non-linear back then. Well,
It's not
told through
flashbacks and all are all
flashbacks.
included in this. It is non-linear, but the
Yeah,
chronology is clear,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
See, the question is, plot is different, story is different, right? The
yeah,
plot is the rearrangement of the story in order to tell a story, tell it properly, to relate to the spectator, right? It's the rearrangement.
sure.
The story is the chronology, okay? So the point is that the chronology of Citizen Kane is never in doubt, okay? It's never in doubt. But the point is, this linearity is, or non-linearity is more a matter of plotting. It's not a matter of story. It's not a matter of chronology, right? The chronology never alters. Same thing with Pulp Fiction, for instance, right?
Yeah,
In
yeah,
fact, the puzzle in that film is what is the chronology, right?
yeah,
It takes you some time to figure out the chronology, but it's very much there. You can be sure about that. Okay,
yeah,
you're gonna
sure.
figure it out.
Yeah,
Okay, the plotting is a key puzzle. Should we go to the next
yeah.
slide?
Next slide, please.
Now, definition of space. To make the narration smooth, the point of interest on shot A should be the same point. Now, what is a shot and what is the scene? A scene is a cluster of shots, okay, around a single around a single location or adjacent locales, right? So
Yeah,
the point is, what happens is that the when you cut from this scene to that scene, point of interest on shot A should be the same point of as the point of interest on shot B. For example, you've got my face in the center of the screen or on the left of the screen, and I'm moving from left to right, and it cuts to some other movement. That movement must not be in the opposite direction. Okay, that interest, that whatever is there should be in the same thing. You can't have one shot in the top right hand corner, the object of interest, the next shot in the left hand top bottom left hand. So what happens is there's a shift in attention. The eyeball moves from this side to that side, right? To
yeah,
make sure that thing is smooth, that object of interest must always be in the same thing of the screen, right? This is a crucial thing. The basic thing is to make sure that the narration is smooth, otherwise it will be jerky. Your attention will go this side, that side. It will be there. You have to be, the story has to be delivered to you perfectly or whatever. All right.
yeah,
Then you've got this other thing called the axis of action. Right, the axis of action. What is the axis of action? This is all of you would have been taught
yeah.
this.
180
This
degree
180,
lines,
180 degrees.
imaginary line.
Yeah,
Yeah,
180 degrees. It's like a stage.
yeah,
Like this, the cinema is supposed to resemble a stage in some sense, that the audience is on one side, the fourth wall, right? It's on the fourth wall of the space. So till then, the other three sides are there. So what happens is, supposing, let's take a thing like this. This is regardless of where the action is. Supposing, let's say, a spaceship is going from Earth to Moon, right? If a
yeah,
spaceship is going from Earth to Moon,
yeah,
if it is going from Earth to Moon, it is going from left to right, say,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
on the screen, right? It's
yeah,
going from left to right. Supposing you want to show at no point, this actually, this fourth wall and all this like proscenium stage, the what do you say, rules of proscenium stage in actually practice should not really work out, have any effect on your space travel, right? But what happens is, to prevent the confusion, what they do is they will say that if it's returning from the moon, it will be right to left.
right to left. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So that kind of thing is to maintain in such a way that you will not be confused into which way the action is going. Okay, that is very important. This is the first thing you learn, axis of action. Okay, in cinema, all of them do that. But the yeah, this is the basic thing. Got to do that. Then you've got this thing of eye line and ear line match using character glance. Okay, what is eye line match? What is eye line match?
if I'm
Eyeline
looking at,
matches.
yeah, if
See,
I'm
some
looking at
action is
screen,
there.
right?
This man
Yeah,
looks there, and there's
then the
another man there. Okay, there should be object must be. I mean, there must be that what man is looking at. Okay,
the
that
direction in which he's
thing
looking
must
at has to be
yeah, must
maintained. Yeah,
be say for example, A is looking upwards from bottom left hand to right to top right hand. Okay, and the other side is another man's face, he should be looking back at this man. It will be the opposite direction, right?
Yeah.
So this eye line and the ear line match is sound comes from somewhere. We don't know what direction sound comes from in the stage, right? Now the question is, if there's a sound of a doorbell and the man turns to the left, okay, he turns his head to the left, okay, what happens is that man who is coming in after the door is open should enter from the left and move to the right. You get me?
Yeah.
So the question it is understood that that thing of the sound will travel in that direction, and so that is the way. These are all simply ways by which there is no confusion in the mind of
Audience.
the spectator. All right. Now, okay. So now then there is this short reverse shot editing. That is, a man, for example, is looking at he's looking at the jury in disbelief at some accusation. The jury is looks back at him. Then again, you have this thing of looking back. So the question is, this a short reverse shot is edited in such a way that this connection between the two is made. This is another thing. All right. Now you look at the sequence of shots or a single locale or adjacent locale. It usually specifies time and space. I usually give this example is Psycho. I don't know if you've seen Psycho. Most films would have this example. Psycho, if you look at the very first segment of Psycho, 3:05 something PM or something,
Yeah.
Arizona, what is the place? What is the capital of
San
Phoenix?
Francisco.
Phoenix,
Phoenix,
Arizona.
Arizona. Yeah.
Phoenix, Arizona, right?
Yeah.
And the point is, the camera goes along and goes into the room.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a hotel room. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Now the point is, there is a particular thing that she's taking his leave, her leave of this man. He's coming at 3 o'clock when it's a lunch break to meet this man, a liaison with this lover of hers, and then she hurries. Hurries, and then she comes, hurries and comes. Then you know exactly that she's hurries through, and she comes to her this
Workplace.
workplace, and
Yeah.
you know from that, okay, how far they've been, how far she's been. If you just come walking that distance, it has to be in a hotel room fairly close by. Okay, when she goes, steals money from her boss and then goes off, that whole distance, from where she's working to Norman Bates's motel, right? That whole distance is in terms of one day, one full day. She leaves on the afternoon of the day. She reaches next evening. So you can say the distance she's traveled, right? It's a huge distance.
Yeah.
Spends overnight in it. So the question is that time and space, time and place has to be, so it has to be, the totality of the space must be suggested in relation to each other. This is exactly 1.5 days journey from here. You change a car, you do this, you sleep in the car and all that sort of thing, right? So the point is, you define space now, you define time now, and next, so that is the way it's brought in. This never happens in. Increasingly, it would seem that even Hollywood is not really doing this kind of very rigorous kind of way of. Please. Yeah, use of time and space, but the point is, how is time and space it's this is very specific to Hollywood, this kind of thing, this clear thing of, because it's a commercial cinema, and the basic thing is not to confuse the spectator. That is the thing.
But
You will
sir,
not
when you
find.
see of like say Iranian cinema as well, they plot
Yeah,
their films in a very present
correct.
tense kind of
Yeah,
a,
yeah. No,
and the
you just look, for example, at again, something like Gangs of Wasipur. You look at
yeah,
Gangs of Wasipur.
yeah,
There's a scene I remember in Gangs of Wasipur where he's saying, okay, he's talking here in a particular space, talking about his past, right? He says, in those days, we used to live in Allahabad or something. He says, okay, or Varanasi or some such place. When he says that, the camera cuts to Varanasi and goes off into Varanasi. Okay, so that kind of you would never be allowed to do such a thing in a Hollywood movie, right? You can't,
you'll
because
have to show the travel
you'll
there.
have to, not only that, you can't simply go off like that, right? The question is, and then come back here. You can't do that sort of thing. You got to keep to the space. If, for example, in a room, if there's like a lecture going on and there's a man trying to listen to the lecture from outside, he'll have to be done in such a way that his position in relation to the room will have to be established. So what happens when the two, either it can be done in to begin with, that is the totality of the space first elaborated upon, and then you show close up, or the close up comes first. So what happens is, once the totality of the space is established, then see a close up on a pen, a close up on a person's face, a close up on a, shall we say, a mouse running around or some such thing. That kind of thing will not confuse you in relation. The totality are already established, right? So
Yeah.
the question is, when you focus on an object in that room, in that particular space, right, it will not confuse you. Okay. So the position of the actor is always determined. The decor, the decor is eliminated in a close up. It doesn't matter very much. Okay. Any questions up to here? Please.
So with these kind of restrictions, like not exactly restrictions, but this is the grammatical
Yeah,
syntax
it's a
which
kind
they
of thing.
followed.
Yeah.
How did the directors of that time kind of manage to have a voice, in the sense that which was like we could distinct, okay, this is a Hitchcock film, this is a John Ford film, this is a Kubrick
Yeah, well,
film.
let's take this. Let's take, for example, Hitchcock. Let's
Yeah.
take this first thing of Psycho. Okay. Now you look at that Hitchcock's thing of Psycho, right? How does he show? He doesn't show the, what do you say? He doesn't show that the room inside. He goes from outside, zooms gradually as if it's a peeping tom trying to get into the room, right?
Yeah.
So Hitchcock is using a camera movement which is consistent with this, whatever I'm saying. It is consistent with this. At the same time, he's trying to show the peeping tom kind of thing. That entire thing of the cameras, it's like going through the thing and then focusing on the window and then going into the room. It's as if, there's a certain sleazy aspect to the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Voyeuristic
has a certain, yeah,
gaze. Yeah.
voyeuristic thing, right?
Yeah.
It's an extremely voyeuristic approach. He's doing this. So you see, that's immediately, you can't do a thing like that in a romantic comedy, for instance.
Sure.
Okay. A romantic comedy cannot show that kind of voyeuristic thing into the film. It's that, yeah, it means,
That means inciting the
yeah, okay,
process
yeah,
through this
deeper,
film.
yeah, okay. Yeah, but the point is that finally, with all this, in fact, your Truffaut's author theory, which is that the authorship in the thing, in spite of the studio system, the entire thing is that regardless whether the studio system exists or not, individual directors will be able to make their point. So the result is they've invented their own kind of, John Ford's landscapes, and
Yeah.
Hitchcock's, I mean, each one has his own kind of vocabulary within the thing, within the framework allowed by these people. I mean, it's not allowed as much as,
Yeah. It
the
was just
question
the
is laid
norm.
down as the rule, to make it as shall we say,
Accessible.
clear as accessible and
Yeah.
clear to the spectator as possible. All right. Okay. No, the point is that all these devices together, they create the sense that there is no scenographic space which is unaccounted for. See, for example, let's say there's this thing going on. There is a thing going on. Okay. And I think about what's happening in my office. I'm sitting here, I've bunked office, I've not gone to the office. I'm thinking what's happening in the office. Supposing I say, I wonder what's happening in the office, right? I'm saying that the audience, who has already been led in certain ways to anticipate certain things, will project that office on a blank space outside, off screen space. Okay. They will imagine the office. I'm saying in their minds, they will imagine the office, what is happening. So that blank space, which is off screen, functions as the place where imagined happenings, supposed happenings will take place, will be projected by the spectator. This is basically it. Okay. If you ask me, among Indian directors who delivered their story best, more than Guru Dutt, okay, I would say that Raj Khosla was a. I mean, look, consider who are the guys. Even if you look at Hollywood today, I would say that somebody like Sam Raimi knows his storytelling inside out, right? I would say that Don Siegel was really top notch at storytelling. Today, I mean, in Hindi movies earlier, I would say that Raj Khosla was one of the clearest. And I think Suraj Barjatia is good. And I think people like this Karan Johar is a good filmmaker. They are actually, in my opinion, these mainstream guys in Bollywood are probably more adept at film grammar than the new people who are
Yeah. They
coming.
follow a syntax. They
They
follow a
follow a
definite
certain
syntax.
thing. And that's why I respect them more than I respect the newer guys. The newer guys you really can't figure out. They don't seem to, they try to do something new, but this basic delivery of the story undisturbed, done without any, that seems to be missing. Okay. All right. Now definition of time, right? Okay. Now different lines of action, and are there, and each line takes place in a designated space. For example, when I'm sitting at home and doing something, the prime minister is doing something, the Chinese in somewhere, Beijing are thinking of something else. Okay, no, the point is all these are different line. Could, I mean, if it is a political film involving, okay, I've not heard of them, please. Okay, if what was I talking about? Yeah, if there is different lines of action, the point is, if it's a political film where all these things came together, then it would be necessary for all me and all these big people to meet at some point, right? So the thing is, these different lines of action take place in different spaces, and they're somehow brought together at some point. And you can take the thing, okay, that between cross cutting is the way by which two lines of action are woven together, which is um, it is simultaneity. It would denote simultaneity, right? For example, Bordwell gives an example. A lot of this is taken from Bordwell's classical Hollywood cinema, I think to 1960 or something. I mean, classical. It's a book on. I think that's a lot of it is taken from there. Okay, hero gets up late. He gets ready for work, and you cut to the boss in his office, pacing up and down, looking at his watch. Why hasn't this fellow come here? Right, like Mr. Dithers and Dagwood Bumstead would probably be like that, right? Dithers would be going, walking up and down somewhere, while Dagwood Bumstead would be getting into his car or whatever, putting on his bow tie or some such thing. So there are two different lines of action which come together. So to get this thing of simultaneity, okay,
Yeah.
the cut, okay, within in every scene, the actions are consecutive, but across lines of action, the actions will be simultaneous. You get my point? Okay, if you what I'm doing here, if you cut to what you're doing there, it will be simultaneous. Okay, but what I'm doing now, the next, that will be sequential, that will be consecutive, right? So that is the basic way. Okay. Now the point here is, to make a point here, there are this cut or whatever, it could be cross cutting, it could also be some kind of comparison is being made, right? If I say, if I, as a metaphor, okay. Now the point is, when you are going to have, you're going to make a comparison through cut. This is being compared to something else. Love being compared to a rose or something like that. Let's say love is compared to a cow eating a rose. Okay, then at that particular point, you'll have to come up. You have to use a strategy, editing strategy, which shows that it is not simultaneity being denoted. You got it? Okay.
And sometimes simultaneity is being denoted and the comparison is being
It's
made, like
possible, but the point
like
is,
the baptism scene in Godfather.
okay, whatever. Yeah, possible. Yeah, correct. That's also correct. There's a moral. Yeah, that's an interesting, good point. There's a moral point being made. Bad things have been compared to the good things this man is, supposedly holy things this man is doing.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's happening simultaneously. Both are there. So it doesn't matter. The point is, sometimes it's only a comparison being made. You should use some other thing, dissolve or some such thing. Use an editing strategy would be different from the one you use in this case. Once again, they cannot be there cannot be confusion. Okay. The duration of the action is very interesting. Okay. Duration of the action is the time taken for the action to conclude. Clock and calendar were used, but then subsequently a very useful thing: appointments and deadlines. Okay. So supposing I buy a air ticket, which I'm supposed to fly to, say, Bombay or Delhi or something a week later, right? The point is that fact that it is 1 week later. So the question is, when I fly, that duration of 1 week would be there, right?
Yeah.
So it's, you have to make an appointment with some person, or you have a deadline. So these appointments and deadlines are ways by which you can communicate the actual passage of time, the duration. I hope there's no doubt about what duration means. Duration is simply the time taken from one action to be completed. For example, the time taken from a man, for a man, supposing he goes from his office to his house, and that journey would be the duration of that particular thing, right? If he's shown in a car, that will be the duration. So duration is very important. As I said, Lagan was what was accepted in the West because of that duration of 3 months. Usually in Sholay, I wouldn't know what is the duration of Sholay. Can anybody tell me what is the duration of Sholay? Nobody knows, right? When did the action take place? What is the duration? No, chronology is difficult. Duration is difficult, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, Hollywood made sure that this was always okay. Now, flashbacks are important. They interrupt the action. But the point is, they don't really, that you don't really favor flashbacks. Flashbacks interrupt the action. Okay. So when will you have the flashback? When some momentous, you cannot interrupt, shall we say, the suspense by having a flashback. The flashback will be used when a certain climax is tided over, a certain climax, not the ultimate climax. Some high point is tided over, and there's an element of repose in some time. Then memory comes in, and usually flashback is motivated by character memory.
Yeah.
Okay, but that does not mean that whatever is happening is seen by the character is only seen by him, right?
Yeah.
So it's only used motivated by character memory, but what happens after that is that it's what is happening. It's not what is seen but what has happened. They're two different things, right? See, for example, in a flashback about my childhood, you could see things that I myself am not aware of. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's just about the past. So it is supposed to be motivated by character memory. This thing works in that way. So
There was
the
this very popular narrative trope in Tamil cinema a while back, where after the interval, there used to be a segment in the flashback where it was the story of the hero and how he ended up there. So mostly it was being narrated by someone who didn't even come into the story of the flashback itself up
yeah,
until like the last 10 minutes
yeah,
or so.
yeah.
So why do you think that happens? Why do you think like
I
flashbacks are
don't know this
treated
much,
that
but
way?
I'll tell you this much. In Indian cinema, I mean, I studied some of them in writing my books. Andaz, for instance. I mean, there are certain flashbacks which are allowed. It doesn't really make a difference. It's not like doesn't really make a difference. The plotting and the thing doesn't matter very much. The plot and the story, there's not much difference because everything is revealed up front.
Yeah.
Okay. The flashback is completely arbitrary in many Indian films. Editing in Indian film is not a big issue, right? Okay, it's not a big issue. Editing becomes a key issue when a thing has to come in only at a certain point, restricted to a certain thing. When the rules are very, very clear, when something has to be delivered absolutely, when you have to maintain suspense. If there is no suspense, no point of view, no character subjectivity, none of these things are there, then obviously editing becomes a thing. So you cannot, it's very difficult to learn editing on the editing table using, say, for example, especially for example, popular cinema.
Yeah.
Okay, almost anything goes. So it's largely the editing is largely some kind of rhythmic editing in terms of music, in terms of that. So exactly what is the thing, that kind of that kind of sharp thing required to maintain suspense, character subjectivity is all not really there. So I would not look upon Indian. It's like a tableau. Okay, something is happening. After that, something else happens. After that, something happens. If you take this and put it back and put it, show a man who has a mustache today, has clean shaven, it means past, right?
Yeah.
If he has gray hair, it means future, right? That's all. Okay, it works at that level. So the kind of sharp editing required for a Hitchcock movie or some movie like Z, for instance.
Yeah.
Z is so sharp, absolutely split second editing, right? That
Yeah.
kind of thing you don't need in Indian cinema. I've not seen that kind of heavy editing, that kind of requirement. I've never seen that. Okay. So this is the flashback. Yeah, that is the important thing. Then another important thing is that well-known historical moments will be the setting for a film. For example, if you take a say World War II movie, supposing lovers are separated or so, in a World War II movie, okay, if say for example, soldiers are coming in the road, buntings are flying in the air, flowers are being thrown from the windows, then you know exactly, you don't have to say very much, it's 1945, the American soldiers are coming back. Secrets in their eyes I haven't seen, but flashback and it's possible. I think you'll have to, it'll be like what you said was a comparison, between the past and the present. I think in Godfather 2 that sort of thing happens, right?
Yeah.
Past and present,
Yeah.
that of course it keeps happening, right?
And it's
Don
not by any
Corleone,
character memory
yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
it's not okay. The past is happening. It's making a comparison of some sort. What Vito Corleone was like and what Michael Corleone was like.
It's like,
What their respective situations are like. Vito Corleone murders somebody, casually comes and sits with an apple or something. He comes, brings home to his wife. Okay, completely casual. This man, his face is rotting after his killing of somebody. After killing his brother, whom does he kill? After killing various people or whatever, his entire face has undergone a change. He's rotting. He's now sitting. He's surrounded on all sides. He's making a comparison. So that kind of thing of the past and present flashback to present is basically a way of making comparisons. I already told you about it. It's not cross-cutting in that sense. Okay.
And Harish, the in Secret in the Eyes, it's done like because it's about 9/11, I think, if I'm not wrong. So the post 9/11 thing, so it kind of anchors through that. Is I don't know if that
Okay.
makes sense. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So then you understand. So the question is, once you say soldiers are coming back, the story would begin from this point. You set it once you set historical, what do you say, historical moments as the basis for setting the setting, then automatically that gives you conveys a certain, it gives this story a certain tinge already. All right. This is a way in which you can do that. Okay. Shall we go to the next one?
Yeah. Next slide, please.
Defining causality, right?
Yeah.
Causality. As I said, story and plot. Okay, plot is the rearrangement of the chronology in such a way as to strengthen the impact. That is the plot. Okay, as I said, the melodrama and the whodunit. I did this thing on melodrama. I said the whodunit and the melodrama could be identical in terms of story, but the melodrama would reveal everything up front, whereas the whodunit, which is a detective story, would hold back certain things, would hold back and then conceal it and then reveal it as a matter of suspense. And in the last scene where the detective reveals what really happened, he is actually telling a melodramatic story. This happened, this happened, this happened. He's laying out the whole story for the audience. Okay, you get my point, right? Agatha Christie most novel and all that, that sort of thing happens. Okay. Now, chronology is the ordering of events. Causality is the process by which one event influences another. Causality can be, okay, it can be impersonal or personal. In the not, I'm saying the initial thing, but like impersonal cause would be, what would be an impersonal cause?
It will be like
War
something
breaking
a
out.
political. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
War breaking out
War.
would be an
Yeah.
impersonal cause. Personal cause would be father disinheriting him. Okay, or meeting an accident or that sort of thing would be personal cause. They can be, but usually in Hollywood, impersonal causes, when they are there, are restricted to the initial parts of the film. They are not carried on into the later part of the film. It just unnecessarily impedes the, the fundamental thing. Okay. Now the point is, see, for example, it's like war is there. Lovers may be separated by war, but they must act to come together or some such thing, right? Okay. So that struggle is necessary for him to overcome the obstacles. I'll tell you about the thing later on. Okay. Once the characters are picked out and the psychological states are established, character act towards goals, enter into conflict, make choices, make appointments, set deadlines, plan future action. This is a fundamental thing, right? Why that case is, the important thing is it proceeds from the individual. All action proceeds from the individual choice, individual decisions, individual motivation. It's a key thing in the individual motivation. Okay. Bollywood is not like that. Individual motivation is not the driving force. There are ideological reasons for why individual motivation is the key here. We will go into that a little later. Okay. So the theme is the struggle, the struggle usually for something happening, or the Michael Corleone losing out morally, becoming a moral loser. Great success as a center of power. He's a war hero. That's very important that he was a war hero. War hero is taken as synonymous with being a good guy, being a patriot, being this, being that. So finally, being a war hero and coming at the end and giving a patriotic speech, a fake patriotic speech in Godfather 2, when he comes in that Senate
Yeah.
committee hearings,
Yeah.
right? Gives that fake thing and then that sarcastically that we are very sure your patriotic thing, we are very impressed by your patriotism, he says. The point is that entire thing is a struggle that Michael Corleone has lost, from being a good patriotic man who fought a war as a war hero to being
Gangster.
a thorough crook, a gangster and a murderer, and no, I mean, absolutely self-centered person, right? That's the
Yeah.
struggle. Okay. Now, you must make sure the causal chain is so constructed that the removal of one element, one event, will seriously affect the story. You can't remove that event. Okay. I'll give you an example. I must have given it before. Spider-Man is my favorite. I usually give it. Spider-Man, number one, Spider-Man is what? 90
Yeah.
pound weakling, right?
Working class.
And he is in love with Mary Jane. Mary Jane doesn't
Yeah.
look at him, right? When how does Spider-Man attract Mary
By
Jane's
trying to get
attention?
a car.
He wants a photo. He wants to attract her attention. He wants takes
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
photograph, right? And because he's not, that's when he's bitten
yeah,
by the spider, right? The spider doesn't bite him in the bathroom. The spider doesn't bite him somewhere else. The spider bites him because he loves Mary Jane. You get my point?
yeah,
He pursues Mary Jane because he's interested in her, and the spider makes use of that opportunity to bite him, right?
yeah,
So that link is there. Okay. Once he's bitten by the spider, he becomes strong. Once he becomes strong, he accidentally, okay, it's not in the sense that he is attracts Mary Jane's attention automatically, right? He
yeah.
pulls that thing that other guy, the bully's food.
Flash Thompson.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, Flash Thompson, right? So because of that, he attracts her attention, and he says, "You've got blue eyes," right? He demonstrates his cleverness, right? But the point is, next scene, he has to have a car because she goes around traveling by car. He doesn't have a car. He has to win that car. Therefore, he goes to the place where the wrestling bout takes place. He wins that money, but he's cheated of that money by the owner of that thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And because he's cheated, he doesn't do anything. Just look at the way it's linked. Because he's cheated, he does not stop the robber where he could have stopped him. And because he does not stop the robber, okay, what happens to him?
his
This
uncle.
robber goes outside and
Yeah,
kills his uncle.
kills his uncle. Yeah,
And because his uncle is killed, he develops feelings of guilt, and the result of that, he decides to fight crime. Okay,
yeah,
this is the basic thing. It works. The other line of action in that film, what is the other line of action? Is the other man, who the other the played by Willem Dafoe,
yeah. Green Goblin.
Green
Norman.
Goblin.
Norman.
Yeah, that is another line of action, right?
Yeah,
That line of action is taking place somewhere else, also in New York, but another place.
yeah,
This okay, his laboratory, his house, and all that. So that line of action and this line of action have to come together, and they have to intertwine. They have to get together. That's the way the film works. You get my point?
yeah,
I think Spider-Man is probably, I think, still think it's the best superhero film because it plays according to classical narration. Okay, I'm very fond of that movie. I watched it several times
yeah,
because of this clever way in which it's all put together. There's no confusing that movie the way it's put together. Okay. Now it's important. I think people should understand this that if you're any of you, I think all of you, many of you will want to write screenplays and all that, right? Suspense. How do you do it? How do you build up suspense in a scene? Okay, you build up suspense by keeping a cause. Something happens, right? Its effect is kept dangling. You won't show that effect now. Supposing something happens, I break something, I fall down. Okay, I'm walking along, I fall down, and
yeah,
then I twist something happens. Okay, then I'm walking along as if nothing happens. The very fact that I've held my shoulder or something when after falling, okay, will be remembered later. At some point, something is gonna happen, right? You won't put an accidental thing. So the thing is that a bit of that cause which is there is not attended to immediately. Then you'll bring something else. Then he meets his friend. He's talking to the friend. Okay, he's talking to the friend. So the question is that immediately it will not happen, but later on at some point it will be taken up by the effect. Some effect will happen out of that. He'll become paralyzed. Something will happen. Something bad or something good will happen. Something will happen out of that. Okay, but the important thing is this has to be kept dangling, and then you must take it out of the. You got to take it out of the spectator's mind. Okay,
yeah,
if it goes too far out of his mind, he will lose interest in that. So you've got once in a way he has to do this, hold his hand like this, right? To remind that it is still there, it is still a pending thing, right? It's
yeah,
still pending. So once that is there, when it's actually taken up by the effect, that is suspense. Okay, suspense, you cannot, surprise is different from suspense. Surprise is something unexpected happening. Suspense is something expected, temporarily forgotten, which comes back later.
yeah. Where the characters do not know of that dangling effect, but the
Yeah, correct.
audience
But the
knows.
point is, you also don't know immediately. You
Yeah,
absorb it
we're
and then you
reminded
forget
of
about
that.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. You actually, when you read a movie, see a movie, you are looking at that movie as what do you say, as actual events and actual happenings in the world. But a story is always, and everything which happens in the story. If there's a close up of a gun in the first scene, okay, that gun is going to play a part in the rest of the movie somewhere.
yeah,
Okay. So that is the basic thing. So the question is, this thing of suspense is very crucial if you want to hold people's attention. That thing has to come back. It has to come back at some later point. It must be forgotten temporarily, but when it comes back, oh my God, why didn't I suspect this? You should say, right? You can't, like, for example, let's take let's take like a detective story. Okay, the criminal has to be somebody we are familiar with. It can't be somebody coming from somewhere else. Okay, we should suspect that person and put aside our suspicions for some reason, and then it comes back. Usually, that becomes suspense. You take, if somebody from outside comes in and does something without you knowing anything. Okay, that is not suspense. That's usually a wrong strategy. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, two characteristics are very important in Hollywood films, and the first is the valorization of individual's choice and motivation, right? Now, what is the reason for this? What is the reason for individual choice and motivation being placed on a pedestal in American cinema? You will find that the individual action takes place from the individual. It does not, it is not, there are two ways of looking at action. It could happen because of a relationship, or it could happen because of the individual, right?
Yeah.
This thing of happening through relationships is not the American way. That the relationship defines a person is not correct. It is the individual who defines the relationship. The main reason is it came out of this puritanical ethic, a British thing, and it comes from the notion of John Locke, Adam Smith, and John Stuart Mill, who defined liberty in negative terms as the absence of external obstacles. Okay.
Yeah.
Liberty
Absence of
is
external obstacles.
absence of external obstacles is liberty, which means the state will not interfere. You will do whatever. So it becomes an ideological thing for the individual, that is, he's allowed to do whatever he wants in a certain way within as long as his elbow, he can swing it anywhere as long as his elbow does not come in contact with somebody's nose, right? So the state is not going to interfere. They will have monopolies and all this kind of acts and all that, but basically the purpose of the state is to ensure freedom for the individual, right? So that is why this individual, that is why in film after film after film, you've got film stars, and the film stars are encouraged. I already did this in characterization. Film stars are encouraged to look into their own selves while delineating character. You get my point?
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, those stars are people who are actually there as some kind of idols. They're not like Indian film stars. Indian film stars we won't talk about now. It's a somewhat different thing, right? American film stars are not like that. They are sort of emblems of what we should do, we want to do, but we can't do, right? I would like to be like this, but I can't be like this. Robert De Niro does that. John Wayne does that. That kind of thing, right? By and large, they are emblems in some way of what we should want to do, but we can't do. Okay, they are emblems of that. Okay, that is the first thing. This is important. Okay, the important thing also is, why did this thing not gain so much ground in England where it originated? What do you think is the reason?
Because
Can
it is a
anybody?
monarchy.
Right, there's already an established structure. Okay,
Yeah.
there's already an established structure in. I think there's already a monarchy, and there's already an aristocracy. There's already classes.
Yeah.
Okay, people can't be what they want in England because there's already a class structure. Whereas America, when they went to America, what happened was that there was wide open spaces. People were allowed to go anywhere. Okay, so which means that they were allowed. They became individuals in some sense, in a much stronger sense than they were in England. There was no class at all. Classes had to be built up from scratch in some way, and if power accumulated, in a short time they were allowed free liberty. So that memory of liberty, that memory of complete freedom to do whatever you want. All the enemies you have are the red Indians and no other enemy. That kind of thing created that, gave the importance to this thing of the individual, right? So American cinema, you can go film after film after film. That the notion of the individual, that everything goes from him, is a crucial thing. It's a crucial thing. What is the next one? What is the next one? Okay, and the choices are always, when you look at the choices of the hero, okay, they're always rational. You cannot have a lunatic hero in an American movie, classical cinema.
True.
You can't have. Okay, people like Scorsese, who came in the 70s, tried to change this. Okay, Taxi Driver, he's supposed to be a lunatic, or he's
Yeah.
supposed to be mentally disturbed.
Yeah.
Your what is that? What island? Scorsese's thing.
Island.
That film with the DiCaprio. What island? Something.
Shutter
Shutter
Island.
Island.
Shutter Island.
Shutter Island, right?
Yeah.
That's again, he's a lunatic, right? He's mentally. But the point is, Scorsese is cheating in both these movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Joker came in now, no?
Joker came now.
Yeah.
Again, it's a new thing. It's again the same thing. The problem here is a Taxi Driver, since it's a classic, acknowledged classic. You look at this guy, he's supposed to be mentally disturbed. He's not okay in the head. But he makes not a single mistake in his whole thing. All the guys he kills are wicked people. He saves a teenage prostitute from prostitution. He kills a gangster. He kills a pimp. I mean, and finally
But he
he's
almost
lauded.
assassinates.
He
You know,
doesn't
candidate.
assassinate.
Yeah, almost. That's what I'm saying. That's where I got some bad ideas in my head.
But the point is this: how do you define the term?
Classic.
Classical.
We did that in the beginning. Yeah.
But classical is different from classic plays. Classical simply means, to put it succinctly, getting effects from a rule, certain set of rules. I want to do this. I follow this procedure. I will. That is classical. Classic is something completely different, which is like your classical music, right? Classical. You don't say call it classic music. It's classical music. Classic rock, classical music. You get me?
Yeah.
Classic is great stuff which is remembered and that sort of thing. A classic is something remembered. Classical is something which is completely different, which is you follow the following rules, you follow these rules, and then you will get your results. Classical physics versus, it's like that, classical physics versus modern physics. Classical physics, there's no observer. In modern physics, there's an observer. Okay, this is the thing. All right, wherever we come to. Okay, so Taxi Driver is like that. So a lot of cinema, like the people like Scorsese and all, have tried to change it, but I'm not convinced that that kind of cinema really, that they're able to follow their rules.
But say King of Comedy, a film like King of Comedy, he's also supposed to be,
Yeah, it's supposed. I'm not quite.
And that film didn't work. That film didn't work on the box office.
But the point, whatever it is, it's still considered a classic because it's Scorsese. I don't know, but whatever, this is the thing. So the point is that this kind of thing of a lunatic or shall we say mentally disturbed, unreliable person whose motives are for example, you take this guy in Taxi Driver. Okay, he's not unmotivated. He's not unmotivated. There is a certain motive. There's a certain cleaning up the city. It's a somewhat vague motive, but it's motive. Yeah. And whatever he does is towards that. So actually motives are there. Okay. Yeah. I want to flush the city down the toilet and that kind of stuff, right? This is very difficult. The next session I'll take up European art cinema.
Okay.
For European art cinema, Godard, all these guys, Bergman, the similarities, how they think, how they work against the American thing. What is the distinction between the American and the European thing? I'll try to do that because you'll understand it in relation to this. Okay. Yes. That kind of unmotivated hero that you have in an Antonioni movie, you can't have in a Hollywood movie. You get me? Okay. So the question is that this is the important thing. Scorsese and all try to change it very much, but it's not really. I mean, all that has resulted in is a certain inconsistency of some sort. It's not really exploring new cinema. Somebody like Lynch should be something completely different. I won't talk about him. It's too difficult to talk about him. Okay. The second aspect, very important, is the nuclear family.
Yeah.
Okay. Adultery is, I just saw this Suits, this TV serials. There's a whole episode devoted to, what's his name? Mike. Okay. His girlfriend, what's her name? Rachel, kissing her former boyfriend and the moral trauma it causes. I mean, just look at that, right? Okay. The point is this thing of being attached to one person, to being attached to one man, one woman kind of thing, not necessarily marriage. Monogamous heterosexuality is a fundamental moral thing in India. American movie is very moral cinema. American cinema, an extremely moral cinema. Evil is punished. Okay, good triumphs. It's a very moral cinema in many ways. But one thing, okay, the only thing which is punishable by death or murder is excusable is in if you kill an adulteress. You know that?
Yeah.
If you've seen, for example, you look at the chap's, what's his name, Woody Allen's 2 movies, Crimes and Misdemeanors.
Yeah.
Okay, one more Match Point. Two of them. Okay, both are about murderers getting away, and he seems to talk about that it's possible to get away. It's not. He's picking specifically upon a woman, okay, who threatens and endangers the marriage. Okay. It's very important that the sanctity of the marriage is a very important thing. This is there. I don't know if you've seen this movie called it's Alan Pecula's Presumed Innocent.
Harrison Ford, right?
Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Interesting movie. Watch that. The wife kills the adulteress, husband is accused. Actually, a wife works in such a way the husband is accused and let off.
Yeah.
Okay. But
Yeah.
the point is that finally the thing is she can't be jailed. The wife is not jailed. It is for her to resolve with her conscience. Will you do that for all crimes? No. The point is, this is the thing that the no other cinema in the world, okay, will treat this marriage, this kind of monogamous heterosexuality as sacred the way America does. And the reason is, in my view, that American cinema, America, the earliest thing, the earliest form of social organization was a family, because they went out, right? Went all over the place. It didn't begin with the city, it began with the family. And the family then next became the settlement. After the settlement, it became the township. After the township, it became the state. After the state became then the federation, right? So the point is, the earliest thing is the family. If you look at this man's, for John Ford's films, you will find that there is a valorization of the family. The family is bringing civilization to America. The Red Indians are not people with families. The Red Indians are warriors. They only kill. Whereas civilization in Hollywood movies, in John Ford movies, civilization is actually brought by the wife, brought by the children, the man going out to work. But that point of family is most important, and because the family is so important in the creation of America, because people went outside. In fact, how many movies haven't you come across when people are going on the wagon trail, right? Wagon trail. I don't know. I think it's there in this other one, which is that film. This
The Wild Bunch. There
No,
was.
Coen Brothers.
Oh yeah, Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Yeah, there's one in which there is this thing, right?
Yeah.
There is this covered wagon thing.
Yeah.
There is again at that particular point couple formation that but don't marry me. I need some more. I will. So that entire thing is that entire journey to the west to set up a settlement, to set up a farmhouse, to set up something is always accompanied by the seeking of wives. Okay, a seeking of a wife, the building up of a family. It's a crucial issue. The southerner of what's this? John Renoir's The Southerner. It's a crucial issue. So once that becomes a crucial issue, you understand that. So the entire issue of adultery becomes taboo, because the memory of that, that memory of the building of the family as a way of actually what happens in American cinema is being faithful to your partner. Okay, is actually a patriotic act. You get my point? Okay, it is unpatriotic to cheat on your partner. Is a fundamental thing which American cinema would because that thing of the family or the nuclear family, not the joint family. The nuclear family is the fundamental building block of American civilization, of the American system, right? So is that all, or is there? Yeah, this is it. So basically, I've completed this session. Okay. Now, any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Yeah, so there's a question from Facebook that someone sent. It says that some time ago you made a very good point about how old filmmakers, like what we're talking about today, the screen grammar and the smooth film experience.
Yeah.
Uh, the person wants you to comment on like what specifically is it that the current directors are doing, which is not exactly following that traditional grammar. Yeah.
See, the point is, it's not that they look. I'll tell you it is not that they've replaced classical cinema with some other thing, right? They don't see what largely what is happening in cinema is, see, what are the attractions you go to a movie for? One is the plot and story, other is character, music, locations, and most of all, spectacle, right?
Yeah.
If, for instance, you're expecting some particular thing, and instead of getting any story, you get a lot of action. You get action, or you get sex, or you get some kind of thing, you get spectacle. Okay, you tend to forget about it. You take something like the Superman movie, recent Superman movies. There's so much violence that to what end, right? So the point is, they fill up the crevices of the story with action, and it's a kind of, how do you put it? It's a distraction of some sort. So by the time the action ends, by the time they've destroyed 3 skyscrapers, they've blown up the whole ocean has been sent off into some other planet, some mountain has been pulled down, you've forgotten what the story was. Basically, that's it, right? You've forgotten what the story was, where it stood. This is basically the trick. Their point is that they think entertainment is not necessarily coming. Once upon a time, what you would call classical cinema, all entertainment came from the story and the way the plotting of the story and the characterization and all these, which are elements of fiction, right? Now what is happening is they've discovered there are other elements, destruction, okay, glamour, okay, voyeuristic, all kinds of things have come in now. No, they do not contribute to the story at all. So you put in a lot of extraneous stuff in the crevices of the plot, and by the time that gets over, you've already forgotten the plot. So you just go there to watch this stuff, and you see this and you see that, and you come out of there. There are whole gaping holes in contemporary cinema, okay, especially these blockbusters. They're gaping holes. We don't know why these gaping holes are there, but obviously they try to fill that gaping holes with other things. It's not true that we only go to movies for story. Hindi cinema itself is an example. Once upon a time, Hindi cinema we used to go only for story. Something like Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, only story, right? Bit of music, story and music. Okay, so music was always there. But gradually it is going. You get spectacle, you get this, you get that. You will get all kinds of spectacle. Slumdog Millionaire, for instance. What is the amount of the amount of spectacle in Slumdog Millionaire is huge, right? You're seeing Indian slums. You're seeing grime in India. You're seeing sites there which you won't see anywhere else in the world. So basically, all these movies, they've just given up on this thing of as a story, because story is no longer the only thing. For example, digital animation will create all kinds of attractions which have nothing to do with story. They'll produce some planet somewhere. They'll create something which you always wanted to see. Okay. Ridley Scott is one person who I have respect for, because he uses digital animation in a way, actually historically, in a certain way, which in some way lends Gladiator and all that. It supports the story. But some of these Superman, Batman films and all that, the Superman movies, I don't think there's anything at all. Anything is possible. You see anything, right? You destroy this building, destroy that building, the whole world will be stopped. That is, I think, earlier one version. But I'm saying all kinds of things happen. Mountains will go, earthquakes will be created, anything. You just watch that and you forget about what's happening. You forget the story altogether. So you could say generally that the story content of films has been replaced by spectacle, would be one way. So it is not that there's a new kind of grammar which has come in, but simply that grammar is being ignored and filled up. And I'll tell you, I'll say this much, okay, why I'm for the story. The story makes you exercise your brain cells, right? Spectacle does not. Spectacle leads you to stupefaction, right? Catch this thing of narrativity, of catching the story, what exactly is happening in the story. Sometimes in Pulp Fiction, it's a very something like Pulp Fiction. I would say, even more than Citizen Kane. It's an extremely, because following the story is a matter of intelligence for you. That you won't find in a Superman movie. Okay. So the question is that the thing of exercising your brain cells in order to catch hold of a story is something that New Hollywood does not encourage, because they can give you anything in order to make money. That's basically it. Okay. Any other questions?
Don't you think that most of the Hollywood film projects, that US is ultimate savior of the world, example Rambo?
It's happening not all cinema. For example, your old cinema was not like this. Now it's happening. That's the ideology. I won't talk about the ideology of America. It's more difficult. I'll have to properly read up for that. Yeah, obviously that's it's crucial there. You see, one of the things you must remember about American cinema is it's increasingly less and less an American cinema than some kind of global product, right? Meant for consumption across so many countries, including countries where America is unpopular. So America becomes popular. What American political policy makes them unpopular. America, Hollywood make them popular. So the question is, it sort of counterbalances in many ways. But it's not only thing. Increasingly now the thing is global things. For example, these Bond films. I think Americans are probably the only guys in the world who can go around trampling all over the world and going to Morocco, doing whatever they want. Bond was allowed, only man. Otherwise, only Americans are allowed to go to some other country and wreak havoc there. Okay, this is a fundamental thing. French detectives can't, French spies can't go to come to India and do all kinds of gadbad here. Okay, it's only an American who can do that, right? So this is the basic thing. So that there are all kinds of things that are accepted, but it's come into cinema today. I think based on the global thing of importance of America. Okay, all right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.